So now we switch to the actual kind of tutorial part of the day. It was requested that we do a very brief overview of Condor architecture for people who may be new, and maybe a reminder for those of you who could use one of how Condor fits together. There's a lot of terms here that have already come up this week that will come up in later talks. And so hopefully this is a helpful orientation for everybody in the room. So we're going to frame this not so much as a architecture talk, but defining some key terms for HTCondor and how they go together. So where are these terms coming from? Did you know the manual has a glossary curated by one Greg Thane? And so you can click on this link, and we're going to go through most of the terms in that list with a couple diagrams to give a sense of how Condor works. So we'll start with the job. What is a job? It's a unit of work. It's the thing you want to run. You can think of it as, this is the executable I want to run, the script, the binary. As an unrepentant mathematician, I think of it as a function transforming inputs to outputs, x's to y's. So this is like what Condor is doing. It's running, it's managing, scheduling, executing jobs. So how are these jobs described? Jobs are described with a language, is that fair to say, called class adds. So these are key value pairs. You could think of them as a list or a dictionary of metadata describing, in this case, a job. But we'll see in a minute, they're used for other kind of entities in the HTCondor universe. It can have lots of different values. This last one, expressions, is what makes it especially customizable, and one might say complicated, because you can have both set values, booleans, numbers, strings, and these expressions that can change. All right, so we have our jobs. They're described with class adds. Where do jobs live? Jobs live on an access point. So this is a machine or a server where users place jobs to be run. And often, not always, but often, that's where a user would log in and actually run a command to submit their jobs. Okay, where do jobs run? What is an execution point? So these are servers where jobs are run or executed. They are also described using class adds. And so you can see here, the description might be a little different, but there might be things that are similar. And that's going to be relevant in a minute, because we want the execution points where the jobs are going to run to be able to talk to the access point where the jobs are. How does this happen? Well, pause. First, we're going to talk about daemons. What are they? So from the manual, it describes them as a long-running process, an older term for service. So the entities that I've just described, the access point, the execute point, have associated daemons. The Condor schedD for the access point, the Condor startD for an execute point. And so these are, you'll hear these terms in talks today, and these come up when we're talking about HTCondor and how it works. So back to the question I was asking the previous slide, how do the execution points, the access points find each other? Through the central manager. So the two daemons associated with the central manager are the collector and negotiator, potentially some other ones. And this is a central database of execution points. It has a negotiator that helps match or assign jobs to execution points. And there's some accounting in there as well. And so this is sort of the conduit connecting these two entities on the left and right, the access point and the execute points. Okay, that's an overview of the big picture. So these are the, let me go back one slide. These are the main components of an HTCondor system. So now we're going to deep dive into a couple, I think 2 or 3 more terms that describe aspects of the job and the execution point in a little more detail. So a term you'll hear in the Condor universe is slot. So a slot is where on the execution point the job actually runs. I think of it as like a slice of the machine. It might be the whole thing. Maybe the machine wants, or the job wants the whole pie, so to speak. But sometimes it's just a fraction. It's created by the Condor starter daemon. And then I think this is actually our last term. Another term you'll have floated around is sandbox. And that's the files associated with the job. We talk about the input sandbox being the input files that need to be usually fetched to the slot where the job is going to execute, and the output sandbox being the files that need to be preserved in some fashion after the job completes. So of the topics kind of I ran through here: architecture, class ads, how Condor kind of fits together and works. There's some previous Condor Week talks highlighted here that you can explore. And if I threw these together last night, if the Condor team wants to change any of the recommended links, just let me know and I'll upload a new version of the slides. This is more ways to learn. And so I'll just open it up before we go into our tutorial for the morning, our actual user tutorial. What did I miss? Any corrections from the Condor team, things that you would add for next year?